Be Fit Food, and I'm super excited to learn more about how this works and everything that she's doing, because she has a passion to be able to impact people's lives, and particularly in the building industry with tradies and so forth, just as we do. So it's really wonderful to be able to meet people and connect with people who have that same passion, and even more exciting to bring you somebody that can talk about things from a perspective that I only know a little bit about. So we're bringing somebody in who knows lots about it, and I'm excited about what I can learn about this as well. And it's all about what we put in can determine how things turn out. So I'd like to welcome my guest, Kate, to the podcast. Kate, thank you so much for speaking with us. And where are you right now? Where are we speaking to you from?
Our head office in Mornington of Be Fit Food, actually.
In Tasmania or Mornington Peninsula?
Mornington Peninsula.
Because there's a
yes,
Mornington
Victoria.
just out my window there.
Ah, there you go.
But it's not the one that
Sometimes
you're at.
people confuse the delivery address. I have seen that before.
There you go. We're getting it all down here. So, as I said, super excited to learn about Be Fit Food, and learn about you and your passions and your purpose, things like that. But just to get started, can you just give us the brief overview of how you ended up doing this? How did it all get started?
Well, so Be Fit Food, I guess, started because of my passion for nutrition. So really that passion started with my entrepreneurial upbringing. At the age of 6, there's a photo of me selling lollies on the side of the road, lollies of all things. We banned sugar in our company, Be Fit Food. And as a dietitian, it's certainly evil, but we didn't know any better many decades ago, 30 plus years ago. So I think that got me interested in, I knew I could sell at a very early age. By the time I was 14 years old, I had 7 casual jobs, and
Just the 7?
just a 7. So I learned how to work hard at a very early age. I paid my way through university. I've got 4 degrees, 3 masters. And I guess for me, the more I learnt, the more I realised I didn't know and how much more there was to know. And I thought, you can't call yourself an expert in something until you can answer all your own questions. And I figured, you know what, never going to be able to answer all the questions. I've just got to start using the knowledge I've got and ask the people the questions.
Yeah.
So as a dietitian, exercise physiologist, and diabetes educator, I'd seen over 10,000 patients in my career. And what I'd found is that most people actually knew really what they had to eat. They just weren't doing it. So, yes, they needed
Guilty.
a little bit of education. And the big downfall for people was really that ability to food shop, prepare what they needed, portion control it, and make sure that they had that 3 times a day, 7 days of the week, and then their health would be fine, their weight would be managed. And it was, how do you bring the convenience of eating healthy into people's homes? And after about the 10,000th time, I'd heard, if you just came home and cooked for me, I'm sure I'd be fine. I'd be able to stick to this meal program. I went, you know what? Clean out the fridge, pantry, cupboards, whatever. I will get the food delivered to your door, and all you need to do is eat it 3 times a day. And I can guarantee you will improve your health and you'll hit your weight loss goals. And that's really how it started. It was using the science of rapid weight loss, really. So this is a really well-established industry. It's called the VLCD, or very low calorie diet, or very low energy diet space, and it's been around for decades. It's, traditionally owned by the bars and shakes category, like I won't name brands, but the big bars and shakes. And I guess my problem with that as a dietitian was everything I'd learned in my career was around whole food. So I thought, why are we transitioning people from food onto bars and shakes when the solution for weight management should be around food? So I wanted to create Australia's first very low calorie diet that was made of whole food. So who wouldn't want to eat a wholemeal beef lasagna instead of drink a chocolate shake for a meal? Like, to me, it just didn't make sense that people were drinking their chocolate shakes replacing meals, when in actual fact you could enjoy what you're eating. You could sit with the family, you could form good habits because you're getting used to eating food that doesn't have sugar, doesn't have salt, doesn't have artificial sweeteners. It's portion controlled. So that in itself was the education piece that people, once we launched the brand, were saying things like, well, I can just read the label and I can just make this myself and it'll be much cheaper. And I'm like, hallelujah. That is the ultimate goal. If we
Mm.
can get people off BeFit food, making the food themselves, then we've achieved our goal, which is really to change the health of Australia one bite at a time. But a lot of people need that kickstart. They need that first couple of weeks knowing that whatever they're doing is going to work, and you don't need to do the exercise to get rid of the weight. Exercise to me is for mental health, it's for
Mm.
cardiovascular health, it's for total body health, but it's not for weight management. So realistically, getting the weight off should be through the diet, or at least 90%. And exercise should be there because you enjoy it. It shouldn't be a form of punishment for eating a piece of chocolate cake or having too many glasses of wine. It should be something that you actually enjoy doing when you feel good about yourself, not something you punish yourself with because you think you've eaten too much. So,
Yeah.
flipping that mindset about, eating for your physiological needs. So, what does your body actually need, rather than thinking about food just for pleasure? Because I think if we were, if cars had voices and we said to the car, what would you want to take in today? Like the car's taking in petrol, it's got a bit of oil, a bit of water. It's not telling us what it would prefer to take because the car wouldn't drive.
Mm.
So the human body is the same. There's things that it needs to function, and we need them every single day, and we need to be nurturing our bodies and thinking about every mouthful that we're eating, or hopefully not thinking, just getting the right food and eating it. And then that extra 10%, 20% of what we eat actually doesn't matter. Have the glass of wine, the blue cheese, and they're all my favorites, or the vanilla slice. But you need to nurture your body first. You need to put in the things that are building the cells, because we are what we eat. Literally, something we eat turns into something in our body and nourishes our cells. So if we don't put that good food in, we're going to produce pretty crappy cells. And then, our immunity is going to collapse, and we're not going to build the body that we want to live in for the rest of our life. And let's face it, it's the only place we really have to live. You move
Yeah.
the other house.
And I'm interested in your
Well,
thoughts
you build the other
about.
house.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
listeners build the other
Yeah.
houses.
Absolutely. Um, you sort of brought up in my mind like some of the challenges that people have from a discipline point of view, which comes from, I guess, a philosophy and so forth. And you'll hear it all of the time. There's like a real reductionism mentality, like this food is bad for you, this food is good for you. And even to the point where, they'll narrow it down that this particular food, like red wine, has some, antioxidants in it. So
Yes.
10 glasses is better than one, and I never have to go to the gym again or something like that. And
Yes.
and they buy into all of those sorts of things. And then the other thing about this, and I just would love your thoughts on it, is it's like, you watch the news one day and they go, eggs, and I'm just using that as an example,
Yep.
don't have too many eggs, otherwise your head will explode. And then the next week it's like you've got to have 2 eggs a day for this and that, and it's like we're on, we're off, we're on, we're off. We should, we shouldn't. How do we find what is right for us so we can stick to something that's sustainable instead of trying all of these fad things and nothing ever seems to stick?
I think we actually all know the answer to this. Think about what your mum told you every day of your life growing up. Eat your vegetables. So, your
Mm.
vegetables are the most important thing you can eat. And it's because they grow from the ground. And the ground, well, it used to be full of all these nourishing minerals and all these fantastic things. So, hopefully, there's areas that still have all of that left in the soil and all that goodness. And that's being sucked up by the plants. And then you've got the sun, and you've got this process of chlorophyll and this production of nutrients. It's a miracle in itself how these plants grow and turn into something that can actually nourish us. And the fact that those plants are living things, it's really important for us as human beings, as living human beings. There's a crossover. There's something really important there that you won't find in the middle aisles of the supermarket. Nothing's growing in the supermarket in those middle aisles, at least, unless it's the pathogenic stuff you don't want to be eating. But I think you'd even struggle in the middle aisle. Some of those things would have shelf lives of many, many years. They're not good living food. It's not the way nature intended. So the number one rule for me is getting in as much good food as you can and the way nature intended, closest to its most natural form
Yeah.
and with minimal processing. And no, it doesn't need to be raw. People go, do I need to eat a raw food diet? No, I guarantee you'll get a tummy ache if you eat everything raw. You will absolutely get a tummy ache. So we as human beings, if you look through history and stuff, once we discovered fire, our brains grew so much bigger because fire helped us break down some of the nutrients in food that then help nourish our bodies to grow these bigger brains. So having a balance of, food close to nature, some cooked, some raw, meat, vegetables, fish, chicken, a little bit of dairy if you can tolerate lactose. Not everyone can, but it doesn't mean it's not good for us or it's bad for us. And at the end of the day, like you said as well, it's common sense. Like, there is nothing wrong with eggs. And unless you are that person that's putting 10 raw eggs into a smoothie, then that's just crazy. There's a very good chance you're going to get some sort of bacterial infection from that. But that's not common sense either. So I think if you take it back to common sense, it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. And, potatoes aren't evil, but it's the way that we eat them. If you deep
Yeah.
fry them and have them with bottled tomato sauce on a
Yeah.
daily basis, you're in a world of trouble. But, a couple of hot chips here or there is not going to kill you either. But you're probably not having the hot chips, the 10 beers and the dessert and the Parma and whatever else. That's when you're running into trouble. But, the poor potato.
Yeah. Vilified. Just going back to a couple of things that I love what you said about, and I'm not necessarily agreeing that it's common sense. I would say it's kind of rare.
Uncommon
Or
sense.
It makes sense, and also, again, sort of going back to that reductionism thinking that this thing in this packet has this riboflavin or whatever it has
Yep.
to is in this packet, and I forget who it was that mentioned it to me, but the vegetables and the fruits, they have their own delivery system. Like,
Yes.
you're eating the whole food with the skin or the whatever, if it's an apple or whatever, rather than just the apple juice or something like that, or having
Delivery
some sort of
system's
processed
amazing.
food that's got
Yeah,
this stuff in it.
And that is the number one thing to remember is food in its natural form is probably far more well used by our bodies and
Yeah.
in a form that we can actually absorb it better than what it would be after we've processed it. And there's some exceptions to that rule. Some nuts and seeds and grains and things like that, you certainly need processing or cooking to break down the outer layers of, the outer part of the grain and whatever else. But when it comes to fruits and veggies, those sorts of things, their most natural form. And even when it comes to your meat and lean proteins as well, we kind of know, should I deep fry it or should I grill it or bake it or pan fry it? Like, it's a pretty, we know the answer to that, even though we prefer the battered fish and chips. We know the fish on the grill or the steamed fish or the baked fish or the fish in foil is the better option. So, I still feel like most people have that common sense, but maybe they're choosing
Yeah.
to go with it, whatever they feel like. But we should feel like feeling better. And we all know that fried fish and chips makes no one feel good about themselves.
No.
Like 5 minutes after you
Just a bit
finish
heavy.
eating, you're not going, gosh, I'm feeling good. I feel like going for a walk. I feel like you're not. You're on the couch.
Yeah.
You're in a world of pain. You're going, I wish I didn't eat all of that. Gosh, I didn't eat that last potato cake. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about your association with tradies and what you're doing there. But just before we move off there, I'd like your thoughts on, like, if we get back to vegetables and what have you again. There's some stuff you can. It looks fresh and looks wonderful in the supermarket. It's the right shape. It's the right colour. And I just remember hearing some people saying in the past, like, I love the supermarket delivery of the stuff I get there seems to last for ages. Whereas
Oh,
the stuff that I get from the organic place, it doesn't seem to last as long. So I get the stuff that gets delivered and it lasts for ages. And I'm thinking there's probably a little bit of a red flag there if something is sitting in your fridge and lasting 10 days versus lasting 2. What are your thoughts about that sort of stuff with the selection of the
mm.
quality of your ingredients?
We do know that when food is ripe, it actually means that it's at its highest nutrient levels. And you'll find, any fruit tree around the world, if it doesn't have a net over it, when that fruit gets ripe, there's barely any fruit left on the tree. And that's before the human got to it, because every other animal on the planet is going for that fresh, ripe fruit. It's because, it is primed to give us that perfect nutrient source. So if food is picked when it's very underripe, then you've got to wait for that ripening process to happen. And does that happen to the same extent? Well, I know myself, like you buy green bananas, and by the time you go to eat them, they don't even taste like bananas anymore. It's like that ripening process doesn't happen the same way.
Mm,
I don't know. It's
mm.
there's things particularly with stone fruit, and you look at the label and it's from California or something like that, and it's in June. And that's a scary thought, because that had to get a long way to get here. And so you're probably eating months old fruit and vegetable, but
Mm.
how has that been preserved?
Yep.
And yeah, look, you're better to eat the fruit than not eat the fruit. And I think,
Yes.
in
Yep.
my opinion, the problem is much, much bigger than at the moment. Just, wash your fruit. That's the best thing you can do. If you can afford organic, go for it, but not everyone can.
Mm.
And if you can only get to the organic grocer once a month, well, that's not an excuse for not eating vegetables the other 3 weeks of the month. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
getting it in some way, shape, or form is probably the most relevant conversation at the moment, because we know around 10% of people actually get the right amount of fruit and veggies every day. So that's the number one thing. And then on the flip side of that, we've got 70% of the population that are either overweight or obese. We've got after the age of 65, the average person actually has at least one chronic health condition, meaning that could be blood pressure, cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, whatever it might be. So we need to be eating more of these good foods as protective mechanisms for our longer term health. And it's not just for the way we look or our body size or shape or for our weight. It's actually for our brains, for example. So we know that a good diet will actually
Mm.
preserve the brain and prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. And I couldn't think of a worse way to die than going through that. And for people that have got parents that are going through that, and I know so many people going through that at the moment, it's a horrible place to be. And, if you have the choice not to take your kids on that journey, then look after your health. Or, when it comes to type 2 diabetes, it might start with, a bit of renal problems, those sorts of things with your kidneys, could end up in dialysis, and you've got someone driving you 3 times a week for 5 hours to have your blood filtered. It could end up in, eye problems and legal blindness. So you need someone to drive you around. And then it can end up with, blisters on your toes, toe amputations, foot amputations, leg amputations. And that might sound extreme, but I see this every day. This
Mm.
is just the Western life. This is the lifestyle we're living. And unless we change that now, today, that is the path for the 70% of people that are overweight and obese in Australia. That is our path. It's very hard to change that path when you're not investing in your health as your number one place to live.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. And you mentioned the dementia and all that we're going through that at the moment. My mum's in a nursing home, and
Yeah.
we visited her yesterday, and she had a fantastic day. But other times she doesn't know
Yeah.
where she is or what's going on, and
Yeah.
you see them deteriorate, and it does bring you back to, you've only got one shot at this. You really
Yes.
need to start to look after yourself for the future rather than living for today and making these decisions for today.
Yeah.
And it's the I guess the challenge is that us humans, we're all sort of got that, we want that instant gratification. We'll do it tomorrow. But when you see things happening like this, and you see a person who was as sharp as a tack just deteriorate, and
Yeah.
that, you know people can go, yeah, it's bad luck, or it's genes, or it's this, that, and the other. But I think I believe very similar to you that most of the stuff that we deal with is within our own hands. Like you can get some bad luck, but a
Yeah.
lot of it we do to ourselves.
Yeah, and just going back to that, yes, you can have a determined genetic
Mm,
disposition to certain conditions. However, the world of epigenetics is what turns your genes on and off. That is what we're exploring now. So it's how the way you live, your lifestyle, the environment you live in, influences your genes activating, turning on or turning off. So we, to a certain extent, have control of some of our genes. So, depending on what gene it is, we might have 10 to 90% control over that gene turning on or off. So, there are opportunities for prevention and certainly for slowing down deterioration as well. If you are predisposed to something, you can't switch off that gene or prevent it, then how do you manage it for as long as you can and give
mm,
yourself the very best chance? And I think what bothers me in the Western world is we're so focused on the cure or the treatment and not on
yes.
prevention, where we have a sick care system, not a healthcare system. There's nowhere where you go to get healthy. You just go to places when you're sick and hope to get a band aid and get out of there as quickly as you can.
Mm,
But there's a pretty good chance you're coming back through that door again to get another
yeah.
band aid. Out you go, back in again. And there's no, like, this wellness system isn't there where we go for preventative health. What would you like to prevent today? Oh, I'd
Mm,
like to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. Great. Here's your script. This is what you need to do 365 days of the year for the next 30 years of your life. Like, where is that script?
mm, yeah. That's so profound, and like it just you preaching to the choir as far as that's concerned. Like that's our philosophy in Builders Business Black Belt from a building a business point of view. Like
Yeah.
prevention is always better than the cure. Like how do I fix these problems? Well, prevent them from happening in the first place, then we won't need to worry about it. Like,
Mm.
and that's it's the same thing. It's a matter of building procedures and systems in your business, learning skills of communication, learning skills of leadership, learn how to grow leaders, nurture people, appreciate people, and you end up with a better team, a better business, more profit, more time, happier customers, all that sort of stuff. It's kind of the same philosophy, and I'm sure you
It
know that being an
is.
entrepreneur.
And the foundations, it's laying those foundations as well. Like, with building a house, you've got to lay good foundations. So
Mm,
this means we need to start with our kids as early as we can, laying really good nutritional foundations, really good healthy lifestyle habits, which I think this generation is so much more conscious of because we know Coca-Cola's bad now. We didn't know that growing up. We know smoking's bad now, and perhaps we didn't know that growing up. And all these sorts of things now are very well known. So there's no excuses for not really bringing up your kids with the healthiest possible lifestyle that you can, other than being time poor. And if you are time poor and you are prioritizing other things, then invest into your children's health, invest in good meals. If you can't make the meals yourself, that's fine, but that's not an excuse not to invest in your children's health and
yeah,
find a way to feed them what they should be eating, to find a way to get them to, fun activities after school and, keeping them active. They don't have to play competitive sport, but they need to stay active. And that could be make them ride their bike to school, or if it's unsafe to ride their bike, then think of ways as a family that you can get your kids to be more active. So that's those foundations. And we know by the age of sort of 2 to 5 years, we actually have our full gut microbiome. So, a gut microbiome is all that bacteria that's the foundation of our bodies. It can actually determine our future, they say. So, our
mm,
gut microbiome, which is built in really, really early stages, age 2 to 5, then becomes the foundation for the rest of our health. So, they say our bacteria in our gut actually outnumbers our human cells. So, we have more bacterial cells in our body than we have human cells. And those bacteria need to be fed to stay alive. And if you want to grow good, healthy bacteria, you need to feed them things that they know and they understand, which is plant
mm.
based food. That's why it
Not
rots.
chicken
You can't.
nuggets and and sauce.
No, you could leave it. I think a punnet of strawberries, a peach, and apple, you leave that on the table for a year, you're coming back to pretty much an empty container or a seed, right?
Yeah.
If you left something like I don't know, I don't want to pick on a brand, but let's call
Go
it
on, pick on a brand. Let's
um,
be
a
controversial.
who knows? It could be a Tim Tam, it could be a
Yeah.
bloody Cadbury's Mars or whatever it is. If you left that on the table, or let's even go like a could be a pseudo healthy thing like a protein bar or a protein powder, right? That protein powder or that protein bar, I can pretty much guarantee you bacteria aren't interested in it, fungi's not interested in it. The rat and mouse and the dog and cat that walked past it weren't interested in it. They didn't even sniff it. They thought it was like the eraser sitting on the table. It's not food. But that living stuff that you put next to it, whether that was, a punnet of strawberries, a tub of yogurt, a bit of meat, chicken, fish, whatever, that is gone by the next organism that goes past it, whether that be microscopic or a larger animal.
Mm,
That powder or that protein bar will not be touched for the year unless a human being goes, oh, that's edible. I think I'll try and eat that.
mm.
And is it? Who knows? The bacteria didn't think so.
Yeah, the marketing says it is, but
Yeah, that's right.
but don't
So,
believe everything that you hear. Um,
yeah.
Tell me how you got involved with, or what's your connection with the building industry and tradies diet. So Scott Carson, who is the person responsible for putting us together,
Yeah.
um, was telling me a bunch of stuff, and I got super excited when he introduced us, and we were going to have this conversation because I was one many,
Yeah.
many years ago. And I still remember when I was an apprentice electrician, every single day it would be something in a carton, which would probably be milk, or something in a can, which would probably be Coke, or something in a plastic bag, which would probably be a pie. And it was just morning tea, lunch,
Mm.
breakfast every single day. And you're young and it doesn't seem to affect you then. But
And this is what we started to see when I first started Be Fit Food and we got our first store. So online, it looked like 95% of our customers were all female. However, what we later found on out was the men just wouldn't order the food online. They'd ask their wives to order for them. So we thought all of our clientele was female until we started digging. And then when we opened our first retail store, what we saw was all these tradies coming in on their lunch breaks and picking up multiple meals at a time, and we're like, how did they find out about us? But they had been getting it on their online, but their wives had been ordering or whatever.
mm,
So, what became a very noticeable thing in our store was, every day between sort of 12 and 2 p.m., all this cash would come into the business because the cashed up tradies are bringing their money in to buy their meals, and they're taking them back on site with their microwaves or the microwaves in their truck or the
yeah,
little ovens, those sorts
yeah,
of things. Some of them had the ones that they plug into their cigarette lighter, the
yeah,
little ovens, and they were buying all this food and they were feeding everyone on the job site because they wanted a hot meal on a cold day. So a meatballs or a lasagna or a chili con carne or whatever it was. And I thought, why would they be paying, $12, $15 a meal when, oh, yeah, that's right. The average transaction value at McDonald's is about $17.
yeah.
Uber Eats is about $26, $27. Actually, we're not expensive and we're good for you. And, even going around to the local shop with the Bain Marie and all those sorts of things, when you walk out of that store, you're still spending $20 and you're not feeling good for it. You're just filling up for the sake of filling up. You're not going to feel better about yourself after you eat.
So, what are some of I suppose, the unexpected dishes that have been hits? Because like you talk to most tradies, and you'll talk to them about certain dishes, and you can just, the face screws up. If they put it in their mouth, they'd probably love it. But I guess we kind of get habituated into that's what I have, that's what I have, that's what I always
Yeah.
have, creature of habit, that sort of thing. So, what have been some of the surprises that you've had that's been popular? Didn't expect that.
Do you know what? They always loved the curries. So I would think they would have gone more for the meatballs, the lasagnas, those sorts of meals, but they'd always go for the curries. And I think when it's a cold day, they're working hard. Curries are really satisfying because you've got that bit of spice as well, that lasting flavour. And then even things like a heap of our soups. So our soups have over 20 grams of protein in them, so they're really filling. You could eat them with a fork, so they're like that man style soup that they talk about. So really chunky, and we've got like a spicy Mexican, or it might even be things like there's a country chicken pea and ham soup which is really popular, and they're things that when we launched them we wouldn't have thought that was the target market for those products. We were thinking more, we've got a meatball soup, which is amazing. My kids love it. They take it to school every day in little thermoses. So these little thermoses up here, they heat it up in the morning and they take their hot lunch. And that's because they don't like sandwiches. Sandwiches are boring to my kids, so they'd rather have a hot meal and eat that. So that was some of the things. But then I guess we've got like a naked burrito bowl, which is virtually like a vegetable salad type thing with all your layers of chicken on top and some spices, or a spicy Mexican beef. And I'd get surprised when people would say the first time they came in, "Have you got anything without vegetables?" And we're like flat out, no. Every single meal has 4 to 12 different vegetables. Oh, well, my mates are eating this. I didn't think, they'd be eating vegetables. And so they would then challenge, okay, well, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's all in there, but you're going to
Yep.
like it. So sure enough, they would take a handful of meals, they'd stop worrying about what was in it, they'd eat it, and they'd go, that was pretty good. And I was like, guess what? If you just try things, you probably like them. So, sometimes it was overcoming that battle from childhood of don't give me green beans, or don't
Mm.
give me broccoli or cauliflower or whatever. And we've got a cauliflower and chicken fried rice, which is super popular. And people are like, it's a really big filling dish. I'm like, well, there's no rice in it. It's all cauliflower. But they didn't even notice. So,
Yeah. Yeah. They might have fallen victim to mum who used to steam the absolute daylights out of the
ooh.
broccoli or whatever, and he'd pick it up and it'd droop,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it wasn't a very good experience. And I think it's all
Yes.
broccoli's like that. But,
Yeah.
broccoli when it's crisp and warm is
Delicious.
just sensational. All of those sorts of things are. Now, one of the things you said earlier on was if ideally people can source their own ingredients, prepare it themselves, your mission is complete. I suspect that you have a just cause that will never be complete. You won't have people that will be doing that. I suspect that if there is an easier way to get that benefit, people are going to go for it. And you've mentioned you've got stores, but can we just quickly talk about access to online, because there's obviously people all over the country that
Yeah.
won't have access to a store and be able to go down and get their lunch at lunchtime, so they will have to pre-organise it and what have you, and maybe get the thermos and the containers and everything, so it's all very, very convenient. How does that work? Like, just run me through the process. I
Yeah.
want to start doing this.
So easiest thing is jump online, befitfood.com.au, place an online order. We deliver to the whole of Australia except the Northern Territory at this stage. So we get deliveries out. I mean, we're sending deliveries every day, but it depends on what postcode you're in as to what day it goes to your area. So it's very simple to order online and get home delivery. Secondly, we've now launched into over 750 Woolworths stores. So they'll have a limited range depending on what store, but enough to get you going, and you can try a few things. And if you like it, then you can get the home delivery online. And what we tend to recommend is, if you don't need to do a full metabolism reset. So our customers that do a 2-week program lose on average 5.89 kilos in 14 days. So
Wow.
massive amounts of weight.
Wow.
So that is what we specialize in. We shrink fatty livers, we reduce a fat storage hormone, we reduce blood sugar levels, blood pressure, cholesterol. But if you're just doing it for health, to invest in your health, then just replace one meal a day. But the cheapest way to buy them is buy like a 28 meal pack, put them in the freezer for the month, and then just take one a day to work, or have it as an occasional dinner here or there so you don't get sick of it. But it's a really good way to invest in your health. And if you're a bigger eater, or you expend a lot of energy during the day, have two of the meals. Get a high protein soup as like an entree, and then have your main meal as something else to have a little bit later on. And what they say from like a nutrition perspective is it's actually really important to get like 20 grams of protein at every meal to help your body and your muscles recover, particularly if you're still on the tools. So it's a great way to get in a couple of meals a day, but spread them out over the day and make sure that you're nourishing your muscles, and you'll recover better. You won't be as sore at work, and you'll sleep better as well.
Yeah. Um, you've my philosophy is you've got to pay for convenience and pay to enjoy how you do it. I know that one of the best things that we've ever done is get a gardener. There's nothing more enjoyable
Yeah.
for me on a Monday morning is when I'm sitting on the lounge having my breakfast, looking outside, and some dude's mowing the lawn. It's just a wonderful thing. Totally prepared to pay for it. It's a great
Yeah.
investment for me. My sense is that if I were to put my pencil to it and I were to buy the ingredients, I had to travel to buy the
Mm.
ingredients. There's the time to travel. There's the cost of the travel. There's the cost of the preparation. There's the cost of the the cooking of it through electricity. There's the cost of having all of the pots and pans and what have you.
Mm.
Got to clean up afterwards. You've got to have storage in it to freeze it,
And
not
you've got
all
to
that sort of
portion
stuff.
control it, not eat it all at once. That's always
Yes,
hard.
yeah. Um, have you ever done any sort of a study or got any maths to say, well, if you ate this for a month, you did it all yourself, it would cost you X amount of dollars and time, which
Yeah.
you've got to apportion a dollar figure to, versus here, have this. And it's sort of, I know it's counterintuitive to what you're saying because ideally you'd like people to do this themselves, but
Yeah.
I just think
Getting
that people are
started.
going to go for people are going to go for convenience, and particularly if it makes sense mathematically, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, so I didn't have to do the research there because another company did it. So they looked at what it would cost to do a 4 week meal plan, and the first week worth of shopping to actually get all of the herbs and spices, bits and pieces that you'd need. Yes, they would last you a little while, but the first week's shopping was about $800. So then the next week was less because you're only buying the things that you needed to cook fresh. So the protein, the veggies, but you've got to buy them every week. And we know that the average household, even a lower income household, is still spending around about $130 just to buy those essential goods to cook the basics. So, at the end of the day, if you value your time, and if you, because let's face it, cooking a meal might seem like it only takes you half an hour, but you had to food shop, like you said, you had to prep and plan what you're going to do. Then you cook the meal. Then you've got to remember to portion control it, not eat all 3 portions, not have the leftovers, do the dishes, pack up. Like that whole ordeal is a couple of hours. And it's actually for the person that has to think of the meals every week. You ask people, it is such a stress of going, I just don't know what to cook. I don't know
Yeah,
what to plan. I don't
yeah.
know what to eat. It actually stresses people out. And we say, we take the guesswork out of it. You just pick what you feel like. And all of our meals are identical in terms of their nutritional value. They all have 4 to 12 different veggies, which is good for the gut microbiome, vitamins, minerals, all of that. They've all got a minimum of 20 grams of protein. They've got a maximum of 15 grams of carbs. So ours are all low carb because they really encourage your body to burn body fat as an energy source. So when you're resting, you're actually burning body fat rather
Mm.
than burning off all the food you've put in. So if your goal is to lose body fat, that's exactly what our programs do. But if you're someone who might be, I don't know, training for an Ironman or endurance sport, then add half a cup of rice or a cup of brown rice or a cup of pasta to the meal. But you don't need to cook. Like get the 30-second rice that you throw in the microwave and put that on the side of your meal. Or if you want to eat with the family, and we do this with our kids, we might have a beef food meal, but I'll just steam up, I don't know, 2 or 3 cups of veggies, and then serve the veggies out and then have the meal with it. Or the kids might have a cup of rice with their veggies with the meal. But at the end of the day, you're spending a few dollars on an extra salad or veggies that pre-made salad like your kale slaw or your mixed greens or whatever it is. You throw that out of the bag. You've got this huge big salad bowl to put in the middle of the table or to have on your own if you want to. And then the hot meal's done. It's heated up in the microwave, the air fryer, the stove, however you want to heat it up. And there's no dishes.
Mm. Yeah. Um, our researcher extraordinaire, Scott Carson. Hopefully, he hasn't sold me a dummy here, and I ask a silly question, but he didn't give me any detail at all. He just said, "Ask Kate about Office Works."
Ah, there you go. So super
So it's a good lead.
interesting. Yeah. For workplaces, I think this was an incredible offering. So, Officeworks asked me to come along to one of their annual training days for all their sales managers, store managers, and the managers in their organisation, and to run a nutrition workshop, which was fascinating. And then alongside that, they let me offer each of the people in the room a My DNA testing kit. So you can see them up above there, but their DNA kit, you literally spit into a little tube, it goes in the mail, and you get an app and you open it up, and it tells you your personal DNA, like your fingerprint,
Wow.
exactly about you. So, what genes do you have? And like I mentioned earlier, your genetics doesn't mean that's the way you're going to be. It means they're the things that you're at risk for, or you may develop if you don't manage your health, or they're the wins that you have, even when you're not managing your health. So, an example would be I'm fortunate, I have a good propensity for burning fat. So I'm a good fat burner. So I'm less likely to gain body fat. But if I sat there and ate donuts all day, that environment, my epigenetics would tell me very differently.
Mm.
However, this is why some people can look at a donut and gain weight, and other people can eat the donut and not gain weight. You literally have different genetics. You have different gut microbiomes that absorb calories different. So certain people can eat things without having a detrimental effect, and other people will find it a lot more challenging. So some people even have like a weight regain gene, or they have a gene for obesity, or they have a gene that makes their appetite regulation really difficult. So they have like a snacking gene.
Mm.
So once you know that about yourself, it's far more manageable to be able to create your own routines and rules and just understand more about you. So, what Officeworks then did after that workshop, because they got so much engagement, is they offered all of their employees the opportunity to order and eat Be Fit food till the end of the year, and they pay for 50% of it. So, that
Wow.
was their sort of offering to say, you know what, instead of a big junket this year where we go and have this big piss up and, whatever else, you guys can eat yourselves better. Let's
Yeah.
get better productivity by making people feel better about themselves, invest in themselves. And, you've had the education, you may be time poor, so you may not be able to follow all of the instruction, but now there's no excuse. You can get the food and we'll pay for half of it. So let's, help you invest in your health and create a healthier, 2023. So I thought that was an incredible initiative for, such a big organization to go down that path and to really change the direction of corporate health. And, Officeworks is part of, I think, the big West Farmers group. So if that's something that's a priority, then surely, our healthcare or our sick care system can start looking a little bit more at preventative health and ways that we can actually help people get healthier rather than throw blame on people. So I think the saddest thing that I would see in my clinical practicing career, and like I said, I saw over 10,000 patients, was people actually felt helpless because they were doing everything that they thought they had to do and they still weren't getting the results. And there was this blame going out, whether that be by their doctor or their partner or their peers or whatever it was. It was like, oh no, you're this way, and it was blame. And it shouldn't be like that. Actually, there's a lot of misleading information out there. There's a lot of people working really hard to get results, but they've been given the wrong information, or they haven't been given the tools to actually achieve their goals. So Be Fit Food for me was like a passion project to give people the tools to eat themselves better or to eat themselves to better health. It's the tool that helps you get the weight off. And when you
Mm.
feel good about yourself, you go, you know what, I think I'll go to the gym today, or I might go for a walk today. So when people feel good, they make better choices. They don't drink as much. They don't overeat. It's like, if you have a really bad meal, sometimes you call that day a write off, and then you have another bad meal, and then it's a write off week, and then you're starting next year.
Yeah.
So, we talk about reset at every mealtime. It doesn't matter how bad your lunch was,
Yeah.
because if you have a BeFit food dinner, you've actually undone that damage, because
Yeah.
it's got all of that nourishment and it's so calorie controlled that you've made up for the bad eating during the day by just eating one more healthy thing at the end of the day. And same rule applies to my kids. If they ever want to go to Macca's, then they take an apple or a carrot in the car. Otherwise, there's no McDonald's. You're not destroying your health on my watch. So if you're going to have something bad to eat, at least get something good in before you
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you were talking about the whole office work thing and um, like getting the group involved.
Yes.
So the whole team is thinking about food and nutrition and productivity and health and feeling good and all that sort of stuff. And it reminded me, we got a post, one of our black belt members put a post in our chat, if you like, or in our dojo, an online environment just today. Like he didn't know I was talking to you today, but the essence of the post is that they are having that they want to put a challenge to their team because there's time being wasted with the apprentices going and getting smoko, and then the
Yep.
quality of what they're bringing back. And he's got, I won't read out the whole post, but he's put this whole idea that he wants to float, whether people think it would be good idea to put challenges together as to what they eat and all of this sort of stuff as a group. And I'm thinking, well, how about this for timing? I think Cliff knows who he is. I'm going to tag you in so you watch this video, and I just it just seems like a no-brainer to me that if they're thinking about something like that, they just jump on BeFit Food as a group
Yeah,
and get stuff
absolutely.
delivered and try different meals and share their opinions of it. And
Yeah.
what a great way to feel better, do better, look better, and save time and effort and all of that sort of stuff into the bargain. It's absolutely amazing. Now, just looking at the clock on the wall, and I always want to ask these questions because I kind of now get a sense of your philosophy and
Yep.
what you know. I just want to learn a little bit more about Kate. And so I have a couple of questions that I always ask. They're a little bit left field, but I'm just always fascinated by the answers. First one is, if you were to choose some other occupation other than what you're doing, if you weren't doing what you're doing, what would you just be absolutely loving to do?
Oh, that's a great question. Do you know, the only thing I ever wanted to be was a dietitian. I got into a degree for biomedical science, and I was so disappointed because I wanted to talk about food. I love food. I just want to talk about food. So if I wasn't a dietitian, I would definitely still do something with food, but maybe more with kids, or maybe in education, but
Yeah.
still around food. I'm so passionate about it, and um, we are what we eat, and people don't get that. You put donuts in, you get donuts out.
Yeah. And I love that, that I love it when people struggle to answer that question because it kind of means that they're doing what they need to be doing, and
Yep.
it's just great to connect with people who absolutely have a passion for what they do. Um, Second question, sort of three parts. You've probably heard the question asked before, but you're having a dinner party.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're preparing the food,
Yep.
uh, and you're allowed to invite three people, and they can be anyone living or dead from history. So, who are the three people that Kate has over for a dinner party?
I I I don't know if everyone knows this person, but Mark Randolph, who started Netflix, his book was
Yes.
fascinating, called "That Will Never Work" or
Yep.
something like that.
Something like that.
And
What a
taking
fascinating
on
book.
Blockbuster, and I just love that he was shut down so many times, but he just went, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then I would say probably, oh gosh, these questions are so hard. I'm fascinated by people that have epic fails and then
Yes.
come back from it. So anybody who was told they couldn't do something and then they went and did it anyway. You know what? I love Einstein, because the number of failures he had before he actually got any wins.
Mm.
And you imagine not getting any feedback other than failure and still going. Just
Yeah.
keep going and keep going. And I think Henry Ford would be fascinating as well. And you
Yeah.
see that quote everywhere that if you were asked how to get places quicker or whatever it is, you'd want faster horses, not cars. And defying all of those odds when people go, it doesn't make business sense, it doesn't make financial sense, it's changing infrastructure, whatever. And yeah, I think understanding, learning more about people that have built that really resilient mindset. And I strongly believe that if you believe it will work, it will work. So follow your passions and just don't give up. They'll never be able to beat you down if you don't give up. So,
Yeah. Yeah, not a truer word has been spoken. That kind of reminds me, years ago, I had the opportunity to be working with Tennis Australia and working with a lot of the elite athletes. And I worked with Samantha Stozer, but I didn't work with Leighton Hewitt, but got to meet him and watch him train and speak to his coach and all that sort of stuff through the connections and watch him play as well. And that point right there is just so profound in that guy. Like, how many 5-set matches did he win coming back from 2 sets down, 5-love
yeah,
in the
yeah,
third? And his mindset was, I have a point, I can win, I'm still in it.
yeah.
He just never gave up. And I just love that whole philosophy. It makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Yeah, I'm listening to an audio book at the moment, and I think it's called something on the lines of just one more. And it's all about that if you have that mindset of just one more, you will never stop challenging yourself, but you
Mm.
can always see the end. So you think, but then you
Yeah,
find one more reason to go
yeah.
further. So you're always going further and further. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. And on a very you know, optimistic but personal note, with the first child, I always knew I was having a second. I was like, how am I going to get through this? Got through it. The second time, I was like, you know what? This is the last child. There's not just one more anymore. We're done. And then that was so easy.
Yeah, yeah. There are some things that you should not say, just one more.
Yep.
But, so best way to not necessarily get in touch with you, but to learn more about what you do, start this process, give it a whirl, give it a test.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to go? How do we get started?
So something I didn't mention, if people go to the Be Fit Food website and they're not sure where to begin or what program to do, we've actually got a free dietitian consult available on our website. So they can go
Wicked.
under support. There's actually an area to book to speak to one of our qualified dietitians. We don't charge anything. We want people to find the right program and to get that success. Or
Yeah,
even if they're on the program and they're not sure if it's working or not, speak to one of the dietitians, because it works every time with 100% of people if you're 100% compliant. But sometimes people don't understand what compliance is. They go, I'm only eating your meals, but then I'm drinking 7 coffees a day with 10 sugars or whatever, but they're still drinking every weekend, or, it works 100% of the time in 100% of people if you're 100% compliant. It's
yeah,
science, and it's using the real foundations of nutrition. But a lot of the time you do need, even if it's a motivation and the support from the dietitian, just to know what you're doing is enough. You need to have your 2 to 3 liters of water a day minimum, because you're creating ketones, you're burning body fat, and you need to wee out the ketones. Otherwise, you're going to get a headache. And, with your meals, you need to have a couple of cups of veggies or salad, so that as you're eating the meal, you're chewing for, 15, 20 minutes as you're eating the meal, because that shuts off appetite in your brain. It takes about 20 minutes before our stomach stretches enough to tell our brain that we're full, and then we feel satisfied. So those little tips and tricks are really
yeah.
good. So befitfood.com.au. Also, our Instagram, BeFitFood Australia, has got lots of information. And my LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So it's just Kate Save. So SAVE, like save your money, save your health. Kate Save, there's always posts on there. And I'm pretty opinionated with nutrition. So,
Love
yeah,
it.
interesting space.
Just had a bit of a blinding flash of the obvious, because I always wondered, and you've just answered the question, is when you go out to a meal and they have, the the little share plates, and they might have 7 or 8 things, and it comes out over
Tappers.
a period of 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. And I don't eat much, and I feel incredibly full afterwards. Versus they bring me out the big plate of food that's all mine, and I whip that
Yeah.
in about 7 minutes, and then I go, oh, I wouldn't mind a dessert,
There you
and
go.
then half a loaf of bread, and then you walk out and you have to crawl to the car. So
And knowing that actually your stomach is only when it's empty about 150 mils. So it's, just over, it's less than a cup size, right? So as long as you put that much food in, you're stretching your stomach enough to be full. However, your brain takes about 20 minutes to get that message. So you need a lot less than you think you need,
yeah,
but to overcome the psychology of it, that's why we say have heaps of salads, low starch, veggies with your meal, because you can chew, it won't add calories, but it'll mentally help you get over the fact that you just don't need as much food as you think
yeah,
you need.
yeah, absolutely brilliant. So Kate, as I said, I can't thank you enough for being so generous with your knowledge and your time speaking with us on the podcast. Folks, we'll make sure we put the website, the Be Fit Food website, in the description. So you'll just be able to click on the link, go take a look, go have a conversation with somebody who can point you in the right direction. One of the things Kate mentioned a little bit earlier was with the genetic testing. So someone gets
Yeah.
fat looking at a donut, someone can eat 5 and nothing happens. You've got to have some sort of customization for this. It's not a one size fits all.
Yes.
The principles are the same for everybody, but the application is going to be different for a different person. So you need somebody who knows what they're doing to point you in the right direction, to save you time, save you energy, and making unnecessary mistakes. So it's been an
Thank
absolute
you.
fun conversation. I love talking about this stuff. Love meeting people like yourself who are passionate and really want to contribute to helping others in this way. So
I'm
thank
happy
you
to
very
give
much.
all of your listeners $25 off their order too. So if they use the
That's
code
wonderful.
TOOLSHEF25, they'll get $25 off their order, just to encourage people, get started. Use
Yeah.
the tools that we've created, change your health.
So we'll put that code in the description as well. I think it was ToolShed25. And
ToolShed25 at the checkout.
yes, and just get started. Give it a go. It'll be fantastic. So that's it for another episode of the Tool Shed. I hope you found it enlightening. I hope it inspired you to start to change some things, because what Kate has given us is some absolute gold in relation to how your business can perform. One of the things we talk about all of the time is who has the most critical influence in the success of a business. Is it the customer? Is it the team? Or is it the owner? And almost everyone gets it wrong by not saying it's the owner. The owner makes the decision. It's their mindset. It's their health. It's their energy. It's their focus. It's their influence. So looking after yourself and putting good quality stuff in so your brain works properly, you make better decisions, your body lasts longer, you've got more energy, you can perform at a higher level. It's so critically important, and it's so worth investing time and energy to understand it. But then when you've got a resource like Be Fit Food and Kate that can give you the convenience and save you a bunch of time as well, it sounds like a no-brainer. So jump on, have a conversation, get started. I'd love to hear your feedback. Put some comments under the podcast in the comments section. Jump into the tool shed, ask questions there. Love to see how this works out for you. That is it. Thanks for joining us in the tool shed. We'll be talking to you again real